Statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out.
You are welcome, whether you are a Bitcoiner, whether you are a supporter, whether you are a subscriber, whether you're a follower, whether you're a hater, whether you're a Bitcoin negator. I don't care. Just come on in, make yourselves comfortable, grab something to take some notes with if you like. I always do when I listen to talks like this. And let's get going. I don't want to keep you too long, but I realized yesterday that when I conducted my live session yesterday, I titled it specifically why I believe the OG Bitcoiners, the Bitcoiners from the old days that managed to hold on to their Bitcoin, the OG whales, I believe there's a good possibility that they get wrecked this cycle. And I labeled, or I titled yesterday's talk that, but I went on a tangent of sorts and never really tied it back into the title. And so I think it's so important that I decided to sort of have a part 2 to yesterday's live session so that I can tackle that title specifically. And I promise I won't get off point today. Now, if you have not watched, or if you have not watched and listened to yesterday's live session, I strongly encourage that you do. We covered some very powerful things, and judging by the response I got sort of after the live session and the DMs and so forth and so on, it was quite impactful for a lot of people. So I strongly encourage that you take that in. Just put some headphones on and go do some treadmill work or something like that, or walk your dog around the block a couple hundred times or whatever. But it'll be well worth your while, I promise. All right. Okay. So, Cal, that's right. Let's go. So, you know, I was discussing why I believed that this cycle could be quite different from all the prior cycles. And while I know it's somewhat dangerous to say that it's different this time, but I strongly believe that it is. And there are facts that are bearing out my theses that this is very different this time. Bitcoin has, understand that Bitcoin throughout its 15-year history, hear me out on this, Bitcoin never really truly had regulatory clarity. It has regulatory clarity from a United States point of view, by the way. It never really did. Today, it has regulatory clarity. Bitcoin, for 15 years in the United States, had a hostile accounting rules applied to it. It was punitive. The accounting rules in the United States made it punitive to actually have any publicly traded company or organization hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet. You only have accounting rules that are that punitive, that hit your bottom line that hard just for holding an asset, when you don't want corporations and companies and organizations and institutions to hold it. That's the only way you would design laws that made it punitive. That's gone. As of this year, 2024, the FASB organization, FASB, changed the rules to no longer be punitive for organizations, institutions, publicly traded companies to hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet. This was never the case in Bitcoin's history. So never did it have regulatory clarity until now. Never did it have accounting rules that were favorable for organizations, institutions, and publicly traded companies to hold it on the balance sheet until now. Okay? Bitcoin throughout its 15-year history, despite 10 years of trying by the Winklevi twins, right, of trying to get a Bitcoin spot ETF, finally, as of now, this year, Bitcoin has spot Bitcoin ETFs approved by some of the largest money managers in the United States and throughout the entire world. Bitcoin not only never had spot Bitcoin ETFs, but the spot Bitcoin ETFs turned out to be the best launch of an ETF in ETF history. Bitcoin never had political sympathy until now. Bitcoin never had a former president talking about in favorable ways about Bitcoin, a former president and potentially the president of the United States again showing up to a Bitcoin conference. 2 or 3 out of the running presidential candidates pro Bitcoin stance. Never in Bitcoin's history. Never in Bitcoin's history has coins until now on exchange been dropping. This is a new phenomenon throughout most, if not all, of Bitcoin's life. The supply of Bitcoin on exchanges was rising. Supply on exchanges was rising throughout all of Bitcoin's life. Now, for the first time in its life, it's declining, and it's declining at a precipitous rate. Bitcoin is being pulled off exchanges at a precipitous rate. Never before in its entire history has this been the case. And I can go on and on and on about the things that make this time different. And so, while it's very dangerous to say that this time is different, I think I have strong reasons to say it this time and not run the risk of it being so dangerous. And Bitcoin is bearing me out as well. Never before in Bitcoin's history did it make an all-time new high before its 4-year halving. This year, Bitcoin made an all-time new high before the April 19th halving. Never before in history. This is the best performing halving cycle in Bitcoin's entire life. Bitcoin is already displaying that this time is different. And here is the crux of my message. Because this time is different and likely to continue to be different, the normal shenanigans, the normal play that the OG Bitcoin whales have traditionally done, I believe, have the potential of blowing up in their face. I believe this could be the cycle that breaks up a lot of concentrated Bitcoin being held by a small handful of Bitcoin OGs that have worked the market traditionally in very artful ways. And I believe this time could blow them and their antics out of the frickin' water. You see, the Bitcoin whales have increasingly become more and more astute at dumping coins on the market at the right time, crushing the latecomer to a bull market. They've become exceptionally acute at finding the area or zone of the top of a cycle. In fact, their dumping in some cases have mitigated, have helped the cycle top actually take form. They've also been fairly astute at finding the area of the bottom as well to go back in. Now, some people might say, well, Oliver, when you say that the OGs have been astute selling the top and buying the bottom for for the most part, when you say that, that flies in the face of you telling us not to do that. Well, yes and no. You see, I regard the Bitcoin OGs as a special category. That's not you. You know, you don't have $2 billion worth of Bitcoin, do you? These guys are sloshing around $800 million in Bitcoin, $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. They're sloshing around major amounts and playing with like 100 million. They're playing with a small portion of their stack. They're playing institutional whale games on the market. That's a very different category than you. With your family's savings, with your family's life, with your stored value, you've worked over the past 10, 15 years, and you're putting your value here. That's a very different scenario than talking about a billionaire playing with 100 million or $75 million worth of his assets. So I put that in the very high level professional camp. But I'm telling you that I believe that there's a potential that in this cycle where they start dumping on the market as Bitcoin skyrockets, they will start dumping as they have historically at a range where they believe that's where the top is. But what's the difference this time? Bitcoin is different, and a different type of player is now in Bitcoin, a player that is bigger and more powerful and more thirsty than the OGs themselves, the BlackRocks of the world. You see, the BlackRocks of the world would love to get their hands on that OG Bitcoin. They don't want them to have it. Do you understand? They would love for them to sell thinking that they're near the top. And these guys swoop in and take that Bitcoin away from them. And this thing continues to skyrocket to the upside, leaving these OGs in the dust, realizing this wasn't even freaking close to the top. There's this meme that I have shared on my X account here. I want to show it to you. And I want to show you, if I can, what I believe is potentially the fate of many OG Bitcoiners who have historically played these games. Let me show you this. Let me show you this. Give me just a moment. I want to find it. Here it is. So let me do this. Okay. You see that? Now stare at it. This is from Greg Schoen. It's become a Bitcoin meme, right? He's writing this in May 11th. I wish I had May 16th, 2011. I wish I had my 1,700 BTC. That's a whale today. Anything over 1,000 Bitcoin is a whale today, right? Okay. So he's saying, I wish I had my 1,700 BTC, which I bought at 6 cents instead of selling them at 30, now that they're $8. That is what I believe potentially is the plight of many future Bitcoin whales. Think about this, guys. Greg meets the threshold of being considered a Bitcoin whale. He has more than 1,000 Bitcoin. And this happened to him at the little price. I believe the same scenario is going to happen to the whales of today at a higher price. They're going to think 6 cents or 600,000 or whatever it is the top.
And this thing is going to go freaking ballistic way past their sell. And they were going to lose their Bitcoin forever. And that is going to be the price that they're going to pay for selling and playing games with the rarest asset on planet Earth, the scarcest asset on planet Earth, the hardest money human beings have ever come in contact with. You should not be fucking around with this. You should not be playing around. You should not be playing games with this. You should not be selling this for any reason unless it is life-threatening. Well, I've always said, guys, there are several things that are okay to sell Bitcoin for. Like when I say never sell Bitcoin, I'd rather err on the side using the word never, which my mother used to say, Oliver, never say never. Well, Mom, I'm sorry. I just have to say this. I have to say never because people don't understand. I have to go way beyond what really is the truth to drive the point home. But there are some reasons for selling Bitcoin. Like, dude, moms, listen, your mother's more important than Bitcoin. I'm sorry. All right. Moms are more important than Bitcoin. All right. Guys, certain memories. I mean, they're really the only things that we leave with. Memories. Now, I'm not talking about getting drunk and hooking up with your high school crush, not that kind of memory. I'm talking about real special memories that you'd be proud to have and hold and share for the rest of your life. I mean, because at the end of the day, what is really money for? It's to exchange something that is true, to exchange for something that is truly valuable to yourself. Just special memories, which are priceless. Moms, which are priceless. So I'm not so stupid on this point that you'd let your mother die and, that's dumb. Come on. But I do feel that I should and I have to err on the side of never. Because if I let those exceptions, if I start publicizing those exceptions, it loosens up the message. And I don't think that should be the case. This is not something to play games with. This is your generational opportunity that is knocking, and it won't be knocking for long, not from a generational point of view. You see, there's always a period in the cycle of an opportunity that changes that has the potential of changing one's life from a generation, from a generational point of view. Let me give you an example. Let's take the internet as an example. And Bitcoin is really just the extension of the movement that the internet began, right? The internet was the digitization of information and knowledge, but it left money alone. And Bitcoin is the extension of that and said, okay, I've got the baton now. Now I go after digitizing money. But they're both digitizing agents, right? So anyway, my point is this. The internet created the world's first, those who grabbed it at a certain point in the adoption phase of the internet, the early adopters, they got the generational opportunity. They became the billionaires. Guys, we weren't hearing about billionaires before really the internet and the computer age. We really weren't. We were hearing about multimillionaires, centimillionaires, but we weren't hearing about billionaires in such quantities. And the internet exploded that.
And so, the Mark Cubans of the world, whether you like him or not, whatever, Jeff Bezos of the world, the Steve Jobs of the world, and I would even say the Bill Gates of the world. It's not that computer internet era, right? But think about this. We as a world never really truly had trillion-dollar companies. What created trillion-dollar companies? The internet. Before the internet, there was no such thing as a trillion-dollar company. Now look at all the trillion-dollar companies. Out of all the trillion-dollar companies, like every one of them except one is internet related, right? If I'm not mistaken, every one is internet related, right? With the exception of one. Yeah, Saudi Aramco. So I can show you this as well. Let's take a look. So, yeah. So here you see, we're not looking at gold because that's not a company. So Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, Google, Amazon. All right. Those are your trillion-dollar companies, right? Meta. And as soon as Saudi Aramco is the only one, the oil company, but as soon as you drop out of the trillion-dollar range, you get the other companies. But everything is internet related. The internet brought about a new level of generational wealth that never really existed before. Now, get this. Bitcoin's going to put that shit to shame. It's the next leg. It has the baton now. It is taking over where the internet could not go. The internet could not go to money. The internet could not go to value that way, to monetary value. And so the internet passed the baton to Bitcoin to say, now you finish the job with money, the biggest job of all. You see, the internet conquered information and knowledge. It collapsed information and knowledge onto a cell phone. Books, education, everything is here. Computers, everything. All right. It made libraries obsolete. It's practically made universities obsolete. The only reason for a university now is that if the piece of paper they give you at the end of upon graduation means something in the world. But the education itself, that shit's online. You don't need to go to a university for that. All of that's online. You might feel there's some value in the piece of paper, and that's going away too. In my organization, if you show up with a heavy traditional educational background, you start off with an X against you. Because I know you've been taught to think in traditional ways, and that's not what works here in my organization. You got to be able to think out of the box. And it's hard for someone who paid $500,000 for their education to throw that away and think out of a box. You're like, dude, I got a $500,000 box here. You're telling me to leave the box? You're telling me to hop out of my $500,000 box? I'm $350,000 in debt. I got to pay this shit off. And you're telling me to leave the box, get out of the box, out of this $500,000 box, think out of the box? No, man, I'm keeping my box. I paid a lot for this. I made sacrifices for this box. I get it all the time. It's hard for them to negate
the thing that they paid for, that they have been told and taught was so valuable their whole lives. It's hard. And a lot of people ask me, Oliver, why is it so that so many educated people seem to can't get Bitcoin? Because it makes everything that they believed in, it makes them feel like they're wrong. It's an ego thing. They don't want it to be right because I've invested so much at this being right, but Bitcoin tells me it's not right. Well, I don't want to hear that message. I've got too much invested here. I dedicated my life to growing in this part of the world, and Bitcoin is saying that part of the world is a lie. I don't want to hear that. And that's at the crux of why incredibly intelligent, bright people won't get Bitcoin, because it makes what they do obsolete. It makes what they believe in seem wrong. And it makes them feel like a freaking idiot. You know? So, anyway, I believe that you're going to have a scenario, guys, where, let me show you this. I'm just saying this could be a scenario. Watch this. This could be a scenario, guys, right? Where I want to talk about gold for a second here, too, by the way. But you could have a scenario, right? Where you got this scenario, guys, where Bitcoin does something like this. Why can't I get this out of the way? Oh, there it is. Let's try to get this out of the way here, guys. I gotta move it slow. That's why. Well, I can get it out of the way. Where you have this, right? And you get up in this area, and the whales are thinking that, all right, that's about where Bitcoin should top out or so. And your whales start their unloading a portion of their stack to actually even apply pressure to it. But here's the thing, people. Here's the thing. The market now has an institutional bid that it never had before. Think about this. There is a permanent, forever institutional bid in Bitcoin. It never had this for 15 years. Its whole life, it never had an institutional bid. It never had a group of some of the biggest money managers in the world with trillions of dollars behind them always having a bid in the market. You see, a spot Bitcoin ETF has to buy. Their whole purpose is to buy. Their purpose is not to short. Their purpose is not to sell. Their purpose is to buy in perpetuity, permanently, forever. Do you understand this? These whales are going to get their lunch taken by these guys. They're going to be like, thank you very much. Thank you for thinking 250, 220 is the top. And maybe, I'm just saying maybe, they get Gregged. Do you understand what I'm saying? They get Gregged. You know what Gregged is. They get Gregged. They get Gregged. That's getting Gregged. They get Gregged. Oh shit. Isn't 1,000 plus Bitcoin a whale? You don't think the whales can get Gregged now? I believe they can get Gregged. Shit, I had 1,700 Bitcoin. I sold that shit at 260,000. Now it's at 700,000. Or let's use the 8. Now it's at 800,000. Whatever. This can happen, guys. Remember, this time is different. Regulatory clarity, FASB rules, political favoring, political acceptance, no more energy FUD, right? This is insane. Spot Bitcoin ETFs, some of the top money managers in the world buying every day via spot Bitcoin ETFs. You got Goldman Sachs buying Bitcoin now, Morgan Stanley buying Bitcoin now. And let me tell you this, you know that shoe is going to drop. Berkshire Hathaway will bend a knee. And when that happens, you know it's just going to go freaking berserk. These OG whales that have been oh so astute, I think it's their time. People always talk about, well, you know, Bitcoin is still centralized in the hands of whales. That's not really true, because still in aggregate, they still control or hold a small percentage of the entire global supply, but still they're significant. And those pockets, I believe, are going to be broken up and distributed this cycle. They're going to get Gregged potentially. And good for them for thinking that you play games with this. Good for them for thinking that you sell this. Good for them for dumping on retail. Good for them. I hope it happens. All right, guys, that's all I wanted to talk to you about today. As I mentioned before, I forgot. I labeled my talk yesterday this message. And in all of my talking, I forgot to tie it into this. Now, I did tell you that before I leave, I want to share with you something. And it's related to gold. And I talked about this in a live before where I told you that gold is, I told you that gold always leads first and then passes the baton to Bitcoin. We talked about that. So you see that gold has been leading here. But for the first time, Bitcoin's been leading as well. But as in recent months, gold has been leading, which it typically always does in the halving year. Okay, it did it in 2020, and it's doing it now. And about September, October, it passes the baton to Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin crushes it. So anyway, gold is trading, as you can see, at all-time new highs. But guys, listen to this. You understand that, I want you to understand that this is not normal. Please understand this. Gold should not be making all-time new highs. You do understand this. Listen, I was a gold bug all of my life. My father was a gold bug, which pretty much made me a gold bug. But I think it's important to understand this, guys, that gold is not supposed to be, and it has to make some people, some of the elites in the world, very nervous. This is odd. Why? Let me tell you why.
that this is odd. Let me tell you why gold should be dropping, not rising. Because interest rates, you have a risk-free interest rate at 5.5%. US Treasury bills. When you have a risk-free rate at 5.5%, gold should be dropping like a fucking stone. Because at the end of the day, it is a non-yielding dead rock. It doesn't produce anything. It doesn't yield. So what do you think? So here is, I can get a risk-free 5.5% on $1 billion. But you know what? I can buy $1 billion of treasuries and get 5.5% risk-free. But you know what? Nah, I'm going to buy a dead rock that pays nothing. What does that move tell you? You're smart. Come on. Read between the lines. It's saying they're calling this this bluff. They're calling this 5.5% bullshit. Nah, I pass. I'm buying the fucking dead rock that pays nothing. That is a middle finger to your face. Do you understand? I don't believe you. I don't trust you. This is bullshit. I'm going to the dead rock that pays nothing. I have more faith in a rock that pays nothing than your 5.5%. This is fucking insane. Do you understand? Do you understand that the market in all of its collective wisdom is sending the world a fucking message that 98% of people are missing? Now, we know that gold is orders of magnitude better than, we know that Bitcoin is orders of magnitude better than gold. If gold is doing this now, putting the middle finger up to 5.5%, OMG, when the baton gets passed to Bitcoin, hold your britches. All right? Grab onto your panties, guys. It's going to be on. It's the fastest horse in the race. It puts gold to shame. And gold, but it puts gold to shame after it allows gold to have its shiny moment. No pun intended. Well, pun intended. It allows gold to have its shiny moment. It does this every cycle, guys. Look, let me show you. Just for those of you who did not see me do this before, let me show you. Okay, I will show you. So you see gold's rally, all right, from 2022. Boom. Now I want to show you this. Okay, let me show you this. Now look at 20. Look at 2020. The last halving. Do you see the same thing? Well, let me just, I'll just put both of them up here. So here is the last halving, right? And the last halving, can I get this out of the way? Yeah. You have, boom, 2020 is the last halving. Boom, right into the middle or latter part of the halving year, right? And it passes the baton to Bitcoin here. Now Bitcoin takes off and this drops. Okay, that was last halving. See the rally first? It allows gold to have it shine first. Gold passes the baton about September, and boom, it drops because the baton has been passed to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin skyrockets. Now, let me show you this. We go back to, well, we do the same thing here. See?
It's the same. Look at the halving years, guys. Look at the halving years. So halving year top out, we're close to halving year top out. You see? So it's the same movie being played again. And just like this did that, that's next. And Bitcoin takes off, Bitcoin takes off. The baton gets passed. Now, let me see if I can show you this. Let's take a look at that same period for Bitcoin. Shoot. A second. So BTC, USD, same period. So remember, a little bit past halfway halving year, gold tops out, right? What's a little bit past halving year? Right there, see? So gold tops out, passes the baton to Bitcoin, gold drops, Bitcoin takes off. It's the same time, if you see that. I hope you see that. It's the same time, late, a little bit past halfway halving year. That's halving year. Okay? And then a little bit, here's halving year again. A little bit past halving year. Look at this consolidation getting ready to boom. And gold will tinker off, and Bitcoin will take the baton and run like a bat out of hell. Just like this. Boom. All right. And so we're watching, guys, the same freaking movie. Get this go. We're watching the same movie. What's going on here? Okay. Okay. I have a sneaking suspicion that Peter Schiff is watching this and seething with rage. Yeah, guys, he's a piece of work there. But he should be happy. Gold is doing okay, but probably not for long. But my point, I wanted to mention this to you where, I've been in markets so long and I'm familiar with the messages that they're supposed to give. So interest rates go higher, interest rates go higher, non-yielding assets go lower. That's just the way it is. Anything that doesn't have a yield goes lower. Do you understand? So, for instance, interest rates go higher, that hits the stock market typically. Why? Because most stocks don't have dividends. Some do, but most don't. So collectively, markets go down because the majority of them are not yielding anything. And so there's a risk-free yield that's available from the government. So interest rates go higher, non-yielding assets go lower. Interest rates go higher, dead rocks that don't deliver anything go lower. Interest rates go higher, things like Bitcoin are supposed to go lower because there's no yield. But why is Bitcoin the best performing asset in the world? Why is gold hitting new highs with interest rates at 5.5%? Why are stocks still performing well? They're supposed to be dropping. Stocks supposed to be dropping. Bitcoin's supposed to be dropping. Gold's supposed to be dropping in a high interest rate environment. The market is calling bullshit. The market collectively is brilliant. Do you understand? It is the truth. And we're seeing the truth play out here. But let me just close out with this. You ain't seen nothing yet. You ain't seen nothing yet. That's right. Did I use a double or triple negative there? You ain't seen nothing yet. Double negative. Love those double negatives. What if the gold isn't going into T-bills because it doesn't exist? Oh my goodness. That's a good point, guys. This is my glucose monitor here. Well, you know, there's a lot of money sloshing around in the world. What we do know is that it's going supposedly, gold can't be hitting new all-time new highs if money's not going there. So it's definitely going there. But you have to understand that this move, Bitcoin consolidating right under all-time new highs and being the best performing asset class in the world, gold hitting all-time new highs, a 6,000-year-old dead rock hitting all-time new highs. That message is very powerful. It's a message away from the shenanigans of paper. You see? It's saying, I need something real. The market's saying, no, I need something real. Now, I know some people say, but how is that? Bitcoin's not real. Bitcoin is the realest. Bitcoin is more real than gold. Look at Bitcoin Eases Life's question. He has a point. Bitcoin, who knows how much gold is in the world? Did we have accountants 6,000 years ago monitoring every ounce? Did anyone show up to your house to mark down how much gold jewelry you have? No, that number's fucking made up. We don't know. Nobody does audits. No country does audits of how much gold they really have. They're not even going to let the world know. And if they report a number, it's not really the number, right? So nobody really knows. That's fake. The only thing real is Bitcoin. The only thing verifiable is Bitcoin. The only thing every human being on earth can look at and see from day one to now, what has occurred. The only thing that's transparent is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the realest thing we have ever had. And so the world is saying, the market in all of its wisdom is saying, I don't trust you anymore. I want real. Now, some people, there's two groups. Some people who haven't quite gotten to Bitcoin yet, the real thing to them is this relic, this dead rock. To those who have, the real thing is Bitcoin, and both are rocking. Bitcoin's up near all-time new highs. It's the best performing asset class this year in the world. It's rocking. You may not feel like it, but it's rocking. From a global perspective, it's like, shit, this thing is amazing. You know? Many people do technical analysis as Bitcoin bull market will close around 2025 March. Ovi, what's your view on that? I know where this view comes from. So, you know, I'm always telling you that Bitcoin has historically topped out in each cycle, excuse me, around November. So it's late 2025. And I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with late 2025. There have been cycles where the top is earlier in the year after the halving. So 2025 is the year after the halving. And there are cycles where it topped in March, April, May, like that. Now, some people argue that last cycle, the market topped in May. Let me go over this for a second. So there's an argument, right, that the market did not top in
November last cycle in 2021, the year after the 2020 halving, that it topped in May. So let's take a look at that. Let me show you that. So some people believe that this is the real top, not this one. Okay, so the real top came early 2021 and not late 2021. Now, okay, I can understand the argument because the move here was very different from the move here. In reality, people, this move should have been on top of this one, but it was forced downward by the China ban. So in reality, Bitcoin reached about 110, I would say, no, about 105. Check that. So Bitcoin reached 105 or so thousand. Because if you take this move, which should have been up here on top of this one, it just had to be, it was brought down. We would have reached 105 or so. And I had a target of 108, if you'll recall. So ultimately, I was right in reality if this was on top of it like it should have been. The China ban caused a disconnect. So instead of it looking like this, it moved this one down here to start again. But this should have been on top of the other one. Okay? So, but some people don't like to call this one the real top, even though it poked above this one and made an all-time new high. It's because the enthusiasm, the internal metrics were very different on the second leg than it was on the first leg. This was truly meteoric FOMO leg. This was a little less. So a lot of people regard this as the real top, not this one. I don't really buy that. I just go with what the market did. The market made a new high here. It topped out in November to me. Now, if we go back to other Novembers, right? Go back to other Novembers. Let me show you. Ah, shoot. Gotta erase this. So we go back to other Novembers and look at the last cycle here. Look at, in this case, it was late. So here's the, so here's the halving year. Remember, Bitcoin tops out the year after the halving year. So 2017 is the year after the halving year, and it tops out late 2017. In the same fashion, right? In the same fashion, what people want to ignore this, we topped out late 2021. We topped out late 2017. And if you think now that we have regulatory clarity, now that we have regulatory clarity, now that we have FASB rule change, now that we have spot Bitcoin ETFs, now that we have institutional adoption, now that we have small nation states adopting it, now that we have more political acceptance, like, dude, it's that this presents the possibility that it tops out even later this cycle. Or if not, goes much higher and tops out around the same. One of the two is going to happen, in my opinion, because this cycle is different. And Bitcoin is already showing that it's different. Never made an all-time new high before the halving. The best performing so far, the best performing halving in Bitcoin's history. And if you think about this, guys, like,
I want you to think about how amazing this is. Like some of you, I think, are missing this, guys. You're missing this, and you shouldn't be missing this. My traders are not missing this, guys. They're not missing this. They're not missing the fact that shit, I lost my point. Maybe it'll come back to me. Sorry. Old age. Old age. Anyway, we're talking about the best performing halving in Bitcoin's history. Oh, I'm glad I came back. It came back to me. I want to show you something here. It came back. Let's do this. I want you to understand that we just had Germany. Wait, guys, first of all, we had major dumping by GBTC, Grayscale, major hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin. We had Germany selling. We had USA selling. And 19,000 guys of 19,000 of the 25,000 people from Mount Gox, 19,000 of the 25 have already been paid. Think about this. So whoever was going to dump already dumped. Mount Gox is gone. Now, here's what many of you are missing, and I don't want you to. All of this and Bitcoin is just going sideways. What the fuck? Like, do you realize that in the past this would cause a 90% drop in Bitcoin? Bitcoin absorbed all of this. Mount Gox is a non-issue now. 19,000 of the 25,000 are already paid out. Done, finished, gone. They already sold if they were going to sell. This is insane. Do you realize this, people? Do you realize how insane this is? So now with all of that pressure gone, and we're coming right into the period of time where Bitcoin shines and gold passes the baton, right before presidential election time. And there's no more sell pressure. You see how all the freaking planets are aligning? All the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. You better hold on to your britches. And if you don't have britches, hold on to your panties. My God. My God. I just heard my mom. Don't use the Lord's name in vain, Oliver. Okay. OMG. OMG. Mm. Yeah, that's crazy. That's right. At least 2 million Bitcoin changed hands last 6 months. And guys, I don't know if you've seen the metric on coins on exchanges. They're dangerously low levels. It's crazy. She pleb hodler. My mom is awesome. My mom is awesome. Yeah. There are many lessons from my mom.
OMG. Boom. That's right. What else here, guys? Anything else before I leave? All right, guys. We're good? All right. We're good? Need to meet you in real. Let's do it. Let's do it, guys. I live on three different continents, so wherever you are, it's whichever one is closest, let's do it. Where is the other available Bitcoin if there's not much on exchange? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Sounds like someone doesn't self-custody. Noah, I hope that's not you. If you self-custody, you would know, right? That it's either in self-custody cold storage or you have someone else holding it for you on exchange, right? So for instance, my Bitcoin's not on any exchange. Many people here's Bitcoin is not on any exchange, right? So there are a lot of people here who buy Bitcoin maybe on Strike or Swan or Coinbase, and they pull that shit off, right? And that's Bitcoin leaving exchange. This is what keeps them honest. You pulling your Bitcoin off exchange keeps them honest. You know? Thank you, guys. Thank you. All right, man. All right, guys, listen. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right, enjoy the rest of your day. Stack harder, go to work. We've got a small window here, a few short weeks. And I'm telling you, listen to me carefully. Read the words that are coming out of my mouth. Your ability to stack really hard for your family is leaving you in a few weeks. This is something that if you haven't been stacking harder, you're going to regret forever. You're going to forever calculate what you could have had. This opportunity now, I'm talking about now, you will have other opportunities, but they won't be like now. The same way Greg's opportunity is not available to us at 6 cents. He bought Greg, I showed you, Greg in May 2011, he bought 1,700 at 6 cents. That is gone forever for us. 60,000 is the new 6 cents. Don't be the new Greg. All right? Don't be the new Greg. 60,000 is the new 6 cents. Don't be the new Greg. All right, guys. Boom. Boom.
My name
Ciao
is
for now.
Oliver Velez, and I am
Only for now.
13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time. Boom!